Hello dear students, here I will be talking about functions of our programming and problem solving course. These are the contents which will be discussed now. Let's start with the session. So what is a function? A function is a block of organized and reusable program code that performs a single, specific and well-defined task. A function is a set of statements that takes input, do some specific computation and produces output. So instead of writing same code again and again for different inputs, we can make a function and call the same whenever required. Let's see function definition. Defining a function means specifying its name and the parameters that are expected and the set of instructions. When a function is defined, space is allocated for the function in the memory. A function definition contains two parts. First one is function header, as you can see, and function body. So to define a function, seven important terms are there. First one is def. A function block start with keyword def. Second, brackets. A keyword is followed by function name and the parameters, and the function name is used uniquely identify the function. Third, colon. After parenthesis, a colon is placed. Fourth, parameters or arguments. Parameters or arguments that the function accepts are placed within the parenthesis. Through these parameters, values are passed to the function. They are optional. In case no values are to be placed, nothing is placed within the parenthesis. Fifth, doc string or documentation string. The first statement of a function can be an optional statement, that is, documentation string of the function or doc string, which describe what the function does. 6. Code block. The code block within a function is properly indented to form block code, that is, instructions which is to be executed. 7th, return. A function may have return statement, that is, it is optional. If it exits, it passes back an expression to the caller. A return statement with a no argument is same as return none. So this was function definition. In short, you will use def keyword to define a function, then your function name, then parameters which will enclose in your brackets and colon. And after that, with some indentation, a statement or instructions you will require. Next is function calling. So function calling, the syntax is very simple, that whatever the function name and brackets. The function call statement has following syntax when it accepts the parameters. So that will be a function name, brackets and parameters and bracket close. Now let's see the example so you will get to know very easily. So here is a program which adds the two numbers using a function. So here I have defined a one function with the name addition, and here the code is written inside that. Then values from user will be accepted and we will call that function. So after calling function, it will goes to its definition and this will perform and the result will be printed. So function call statement invokes the function. When a function is invoked, program control jumps to the call function, execute the statements that are part of that function. Once the call function is executed, the program control passes back to the calling function. So this was the example. Now let's see next function calling another function. So here you can see there are three functions has been used. So starting with the function this, as you can see, function 1 is invoked. As it invoked, it will goes to its definition. So let's see its definition. Variable a will assign value 10 and that will be printed. Now next step is function 2 is called. So we will go its definition. After that, C will assign value 30 and it will be printed. Next again you can see the function 3 is invoked, so it will go in its definition, and after that e will get a value 50 and printing of e will be takes place. So as you can see, the function 3 is completely executed. So what will happen next? The control will go to statement following the one that call the function. That is, control will go to its function 2's definition. Then the 10, then d will assign 40, then printing of d will be takes place. Again you can see function 2 is executed completely. So control will pass to its definition of function 1 and the value of p will printed. So likewise this nesting of function takes place. So it is not necessary that function 1 can call only one function. It can call as many functions as it wants and as many times as it wants. So we have already seen function and its execution. Now let's see what will happen if we pass the arguments. So in this case, so you can see in its definition the variables are passed, and while calling also we have passed arguments. So after accepting the values of a and b that will be put inside this, so we will call that addition function, will go its definition, then whatever the values of a and b are takes place, both addition will be happen and that will be printed in a form of result. So this was the function with the arguments. Now let's see next variable scope and its lifetime. So what is a scope and lifetime? The part of program in which a variable is accessible is called its scope, and the duration for which that variable exists is called its lifetime. There are again two types of variable, global variable and local variable. The global variable are those variables which are defined in a main body of the program file and they are visible throughout the program. A local variable is defined within a function, and the local variable can be accessed from the point of its definition until the end of function in which it is defined. So it exists as long as a function is executing. Now let's see the example, then you will get to know more properly. So here you can see, here the three variables has been used, one function is defined and called. So starting with this num1 equal to 10 and printing of num1 is done. So num1, as we have already seen, that global variable is what, which is defined in a main body but outside a function. So we can see that num1 is a global variable. Then next is, this is a definition, so it will not executed right now. We will go to next step, that function and 20. That means we are going to call and we will go inside the function this. So num2 will get a value that is 20. So we can see that num2 is a function parameter. So after that we will print this statement. So num2's value is nothing but 20, that will be printed. Next is num3 equal to 30. So now you can see the num3 is nothing but your local variable as we have defined it inside a function. So we are going to print this statement num3. So whatever the value is, that will be printed. So in this case 30 will be printed. Now program is executed properly. Then we'll go to next step, that is num1 printing. As we can see, this will be takes place as the num1 is a global variable. Now next step, printing of num3. Whether it is possible to print num3 and why. So we can guess num3 is nothing but your local variable we have defined inside a function. So we cannot access that variable outside a function. So in that case, we will get an error, that is name error. So you can right now get to know how the global and local variable execution takes place. Now let's see next. So as you already know that we cannot access local variable outside a function. So in that case, you can use global statement. To define a variable defined inside a function as a global, you can use global statement. Let's see the program. Here var variable is takes place. It is a global variable. Now inside that you have written some word that is global and space variable name. That means variable 1 can be accessed outside a function only when you mention it as global. So in this case var1 got a value morning after printing var. So var's value will be good. So that will be printed. Now let's see, can we print var1 outside a function? So in this case it will be printed morning because we have already mentioned that var1 as global. So we can access outside a function also. And this is a simple, as it is a global, so you can access outside a function also. So likewise, you can access local variable with the help of global keyword. Now let's see next. Same name of local and global variable. So what will happen if we are going to use same name as if they are global also and local also? So you can have variable with the same name as that of global variable in a program. In that case, new local variable of that name is created which is different from global variable. Let's see the example. Here var as a global, but you can see it is mentioned as a local also. So it's depend on where you call or where you going to access that variable. So in this case, if we are going to print that, so it is a printing inside a function, so you will get local value, local variables value. So in that case, morning will be printed. After that, if we are going to print variable, but now in that case, it will take the value which is having a global variable value. Okay, so in that case it will not print morning. In this case it will print good keyword. Okay, so this is with the same name, local and variable. Now let's see modifying a global variable. If we can have global variable and then create another global variable using global statement, then changes made in that variable will be reflected everywhere in the program. Now let's see. Here var is having good, then you are mentioning variable var as a global, and here you are going to change its value, say morning. So in this state it will print morning. So what will happen if you access var outside a function? What it will get a value? In this case you can see here you will get a value morning. Why is it so? As var is mentioned as global, that's why it will print morning. But in previous program it was printing good in this case. So I hope you are getting the difference between two. And now next stage we are changing the value of global variable. So let's see whether it works or not. So var equal to fantastic, then printing of that. So after that you are going to see you can see here fantastic is been printed. So you can modify global variable outside a function also. But note is you cannot assign value to the variable defined outside a function without using global statement. Now let's see accessing of variables in inner and outer function. Inner function can access variables defined in both outer as well as inner function. But outer function can access variables defined only in a outer function. Okay, I'm again repeating, inner function can access variables defined in both outer as well as inner function. That means inner functions variable like this, you can access variables of outer function also and inner functions also. Okay, so in this case the value of outer variable and inner variables value will be get printed. But if you are using or you are accessing the variables define outer function. So in that case, what will happen? So in this case, outer variable's value is going to print, that is 10, as outer variable is local to that function, right? But what will happen if you are going to access inner variable outside a function? So in that case, there will be error, as this inner variable is local to inner function. So you cannot access that inner variable outside a function. Okay, so in this case, you will not able to access inner variable. So that is a rule. So outer variable will be local variable for outer function. Outer variable will be local for outer function, and outer variable will be global for inner function. So you can access outer variable. But in case of inner variable will be local variable for inner function. Inner variable will be local for inner variable, but you cannot access inner variable outside a inner function. Okay, so this was nesting functions. Now let's see next. Name clashes variable in a cases of nested function. So this is a homework for you. What will be output of the program? You have to just try on your system, and what will be the output, what var will contains, and what it will be printed. You have to tell the same. Okay, so in the next section we'll discuss what is a return statement and all, what is lambda function, recursive function. Till then you have to revise all the topics which we have discussed up till now. So bye bye and take care.